I'm Ashton Addison from EventChain for Investmentpitch Media and the Crypto Coin Show. And today on Blockchain Interviews, we have Garrick Hileman, the head of research for Blockchain.com and a visiting fellow of the London School of Economics. Garrick, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you here, and I'm really excited for this discussion today.
Thanks for having me, Ashton.
You're very welcome. Let's dive right into it. If you could just start with a little bit of your background in the space, your recent focuses, and your lead up to heading the research team for Blockchain.com, and then we can dive in deep.
Great. So I first got interested in cryptocurrency during my PhD at the London School of Economics. I was studying under Professors Albert Ritchell and Neil Ferguson, and I was looking at alternative currency markets and alternative currencies, and this thing called Bitcoin came across my screen, and it led me to kind of moonlight during my PhD at CoinDesk. I joined CoinDesk in 2013 to build up the research program there. After the PhD at the LSE, I went to Cambridge, University of Cambridge, and started the blockchain and cryptocurrency research program at the Judge Business School. And in May, it will be 3 years at Blockchain.com as the head of research. So I've been following this space as a researcher for a number of years now, teaching, lecturing on it, and working with regulators to try to help all of us come to grips with this new transformative technology.
Definitely, Garrick. And since 2013, the Bitcoin and the whole blockchain space has expanded exponentially. And I'm sure it's been an exciting ride for you. And for me, it has. And even with blockchain.com, they've been one of those companies that's been around since around that time. And even before then as well, they've expanded so much as well. And it used to be, blockchain.info, and it just had these basic services. But now they seem to have expanded out. So if you could touch on for the viewers, what is a quick overview of blockchain.com and what they're primarily focused on right now?
Great. Yeah, so people who've been in the space for a while know us for our Block Explorer, the .info days, also our non-custodial wallet. Those were our two flagship products for a long time, and also a great data hub of charts and data that can be downloaded by researchers like myself. So that's probably how we're best known to the OGs, or people who've been in the space for quite a while. Recently, we've really expanded our product offering. We've created an exchange. This is a custodial product. We recognize that not all newcomers, especially to crypto, want to take full responsibility of their private keys. There's some extra challenges and responsibility involved there. We're offering interest rate products. We can pay 12% on US dollar stablecoin deposits, which is, I think, one of the best rates for a custodial platform. We're just continuing to expand into new areas as crypto continues to evolve as well. Mm-hmm. We've done a number of innovative things like airdrops, in the past couple of years since I've joined. And we're just, looking to continue to grow with this space as more institutional money comes in. We've seen a lot more institutional business. Our lending desk is one of the biggest lending desks in the whole space. And it's just an exciting time to be in crypto right now.
Definitely. It's been an exciting year, and I'm not sure who could have predicted what would happen to Bitcoin at the start of 2020. And I know that you, since working in 2013 when you worked at CoinDesk and you're working on your PhD, you also were running the State of Bitcoin report, which was an annual report. And I'm sure there'd be a lot of people interested in those reports nowadays. So do you think you could give a little synopsis of, the state of Bitcoin in 2020? Do you think it did better than expected, and overall just a net positive for the whole community?
Yes, I think this has been the best year for crypto assets and for Bitcoin since I've been following the space. Now, some people would argue that getting the first million people to adopt and use cryptocurrency, that's the hardest step to take, and I think there's some merit to that, without question. Mm-hmm. But in terms of kind of the acceptance and legitimization and the ownership at really the highest, kind of most powerful levels of Wall Street this year, and I mean, it's pretty incredible, I think, for those of us who've been in the space to see that. And it's hard not to say, wow, this was just an amazing year, maybe the best year ever, depending upon your perspective. Could that have been predicted at the beginning of the year? I don't think so. I don't think anyone in January was kind of expecting the year we've had, mm-hmm. And the validation that Bitcoin has received this year. So it's been an amazing year. But as we talked about in our monthly webinar at the beginning of this month, with all this renewed public attention, you're going to see more policymaker attention. You're going to see regulators more actively involved than they've been. And we're seeing some signs of that already with the non-custodial wallet regulations that were announced last week and some other things. So it's going to be another really important year next year. You can't really kick back and rest on your laurels in this space.
Totally. And you mentioned also, the institutional adoption there. You also mentioned that Blockchain.com has that, institutional desk, and they're starting to get involved in that more. Through your research, and since the beginning of 2020 to now the end of 2020, it seems like there's just been a lot more institutional interest, at least publicly advertised. A lot of institutions will go and secretly buy when the price is down. But now it seems like we're getting news of all these different institutions that are just jumping on board. Do you see a flip that has been switched, or was there a trigger for that? And why now this is all coming to light about all the institutional adoption?
Yes. So I think there's been some huge changes since 2017, which was a really retail-driven, kind of adoption cycle. This cycle, what's different? Why have we seen the herd finally arriving? I mean, for years people have been talking about Wall Street's coming, and it never happened. This year it seems to have finally happened. What changed? Well, a lot of infrastructure has been added since 2017. You've got companies like Fidelity and others that institutional money managers are very comfortable with, have accounts with already, now playing in this space. You've seen regulatory clarity. The futures markets that were launched by the Chicago's futures markets in end of 2017, they've been around for a number of years. They haven't been shut down. So those have, I think that's been really positive. I think just the longevity should not be underestimated. The fact that this has not gone away and keeps bouncing back. I still hear people saying, "Oh, this is like tulips. It's a bubble." Tulips never bounce back. It went up and it went down and it stayed down. This has bounced back at least a half dozen times. And that's not like your typical kind of bubble or, some terms. I mean, for those of us who know this sector, we would laugh when we'd hear terms like Ponzi scheme thrown around. But yeah, again, Bernie Madoff, up, down, these things don't come back. Of course, for us, it was clear this wasn't a Ponzi, but for a lot of people who weren't really well versed in crypto assets and only just knew a very, very little amount, it was easy to dismiss the space, with those kinds of accusations being thrown around. But I think a lot of that FUD has gone away, and now you're seeing very serious people, the big boys, so to speak, getting in a big way.
Definitely. And I've seen a lot of short clips recently of those same notable investors that are now investing, either saying Bitcoin was going to zero, or Bitcoin's useless, Bitcoin's dead. And there's even sites that have tracked how many times Bitcoin has died. I think it's in the hundreds of times of articles that it was declared dead. And you're right, it just keeps popping back up. It's not one of those one-offs where it's like tulips and just crashes and it doesn't come back. And because it is growing so quickly, of course, there's still the need for retracements and pullbacks in a normal market cycle. Something can't go up forever, every day, every minute. So that seems normal. And so I want to jump ahead a little bit with Bitcoin here, looking at 2021. And as you said, 2020 seems to be the most explosive year so far, and just overall, besides the price, just the adoption from the community and institutions seems really great. Do you think we will continue on the same trend for 2021 or even accelerate even further, or maybe even slow down and maybe go as far as a potential price prediction of Bitcoin by the end of 2021 next year?
Yeah, I mean, it's very difficult to, forecast the near-term future. There's, things that can change the landscape. I mean, the pandemic, what's in store? Is there something like that awaiting around the corner? But certainly with the momentum of this year in place, I think there's certainly a lot of upside in 2021 personally. I think the digital gold thesis is the kind of thesis around Bitcoin that's easy for people to understand and really does lend support to the idea that Bitcoin should be a $1 trillion market value asset at least, with gold at say 10 trillion. And all the different interesting ways you can use Bitcoin beyond what you can do with gold. So I would, I'm on public record saying I expect possibly as early as next year for Bitcoin to achieve that level. It's not a huge, in terms of how many X increase you need from here to get there. You're looking at a price of just above 50,000. 2x roughly from here. In 2017 we saw Bitcoin do 20x. 2x seems like a pretty modest move for Bitcoin to make, and it wouldn't surprise me, frankly. I would not be surprised if Bitcoin hit 100K next year, just to put it out there. That would not be shocking. When you've got investors like Guggenheim and others coming out talking about 400,000, I think 100,000 is a very achievable near-term price target in 2021. But again, what's going to happen with regulation? What's going to happen with hacks? What's going to happen globally with the economy, with central banks and whatnot? There's a lot of different things that kind of could play with the timetable, but it does feel like we're heading towards Bitcoin becoming $1 trillion market value asset.
Definitely, and I think that your price prediction is conservative right alongside with what I was thinking, around 50,000 to 100,000. I recently was watching a podcast with Dan Held, Growth at Kraken, and he said potentially if it was a super cycle, he could see it reaching 1 million by the end of the year. But that seemed a little out of reach, but 100,000 definitely seems a lot more reasonable, even though compared to regular assets, it seems exponentially higher. So back to Blockchain.com for a minute. 2020 was such a great year for Bitcoin and the space overall. Do you have anything notable that you and your team were working alongside in terms of achievements for 2020? And would you say it was an overall successful year for the research team at Blockchain.com?
Yeah, for the company and for the research team, it's been, I think, one of the best years, no question about it. I mean, certainly, rising tide lifts all boats, right? And you have these cycles. Since 2017, the company's been super hard at work at trying to build for the next cycle. That's the way crypto seems to kind of grow in these kind of fits and starts, and having the infrastructure in place to manage a big cycle like this. So we're really proud of the progress we made on kind of uptime and beefing up customer support, expanding our products and making sure they're ready for this kind of wave we're seeing. We had our best week ever, I think, on the exchange last week. And so I think the infrastructure is really taking a big step up. We still see problems across the industry, right? We still hear about outages. We are not immune to that ourselves. So there's still a lot of work companies need to do to kind of, continue to handle these massive surges. But overall, very happy with how the company's done. And I think also how the industry's matured. I think there's been a lot of progress across the whole industry since 2017.
Definitely. And yeah, it seems, when there is a day when all of a sudden a rush of new entrants into the market are coming in, these exchanges and service level applications seem to be going down because they can't handle the bandwidth of all the new people, which is a good problem to have, but not a good problem, in the moment. So I'm glad that Blockchain.com sort of has that covered. Now, moving forward to 2021, again, I want to talk about, because I know that you're very involved in economics and following in the political spectrum as well. As you said, it could be a huge year for 2021, for Bitcoin at least. Do you see the current political state of America and the world economy in determining how quickly or how slowly this blockchain economy is going to progress coming into 2021?
That's a really interesting question. This year, and we've seen this before throughout the years, is, crypto correlating with, a decline in the value of the Chinese renminbi? Sometimes it looks like it is. We saw that spring of last year, 2019. Boy, it was just moving in lockstep as the yuan was heading down in response to trade tensions. We've seen it, really closely correlate with equities and gold during parts of this year. How tied crypto is to the U.S. and the economy overall is still, for me, a big question mark. It does sometimes march to its own beat. Sometimes it moves in lockstep with something. But certainly, I think it's reasonable to assume that we're going to continue to see fiscal and monetary stimulus. That's been made very publicly clear. We just have a new stimulus recently passed. Fed has been very transparent about what they're looking to do with interest rates, monetary policy. All of that's very bullish for Bitcoin. At the same time, we're continuing to see broad technological innovation in DeFi, with Ethereum kind of making progress with ETH 2.0. And so it's all looking really, really positive. The thing that I probably wonder about the most is, will regulators continue to strike the right balance? And also, this is getting moved up beyond the regulatory technocratic level, we're getting politicians now more involved with policy. We saw some stablecoin legislation proposed out of Congress. It sounded like Mnuchin was very much behind a lot of this non-custodial wallet legislation. So it's going beyond kind of the FinCEN technocratic level up to the political level. And there I get a little more worried because you sometimes see things happen that are for political points, scoring points reasons, and are less grounded in how do we keep the American economy competitive? How do we keep innovation flourishing? How do we strike the right balance between obviously trying to prevent bad guys doing bad things with this technology and also enabling innovation to grow onshore?
Definitely, Garrick. That's a great point about the regulation. Make sure that you're not over-regulating and stifling innovation, and that point about the non-custodial wallets. And I know a few large CEOs of blockchain companies were outspoken about that, saying, make sure you don't go too far to stifle innovation. So it'll be interesting to see when the new presidency comes in, how much regulatory bodies will get involved, and whether they'll be encouraging that or they'll try to put their foot down. Now, we're running short on time for the interview, but I want to look forward to 2021 for Blockchain.com. Do you have any hints to any of your roadmaps or major releases or what you're looking forward to as the company grows into 2021?
Right. Well, I think, we've expanded our product suite significantly in recent years, and have the exchange, have the non-custodial wallet, have a block explorer, have an interest rate product. I don't know that a lot of crypto companies have as wide a range a product offering as what we have. And so I would, with this wave that's coming into the crypto space, my sense is we'll be really focused on making sure those products are, leading class and reliable. But look, I'm not the product guy, I'm the research guy. I can't obviously reveal anything that hasn't been publicly announced, but I think, just making sure that our existing suite of products is really, really ready for this cycle is a huge priority for the company. Hopefully we can just continue to see, adoption grow at a steady rate. There's a lag, it's inevitable. Crypto companies can't hire and staff up with massive support teams for a bear market. There's going to be, you've got to plan if you're going to stick around like Blockchain.com has since 2011. You've got to be prepared for the downturns as well as the upswings. And there's always a lag in kind of staffing back up. So please, customers, be a little patient with us if you're a little frustrated. We're working as hard and fast as we can to manage the intake.
Definitely, Garrick. All right. Well, if the viewers are interested in learning more about Blockchain.com or for following your work personally as well, what's the best way for them to learn more?
Right. So, we have a monthly webinar and we do a regular podcast as well now. We're really trying to be more kind of visible and accessible. You can follow myself and the company and our leadership team on Twitter, of course. We're very active on social channels. I do want to mention there are a lot of impersonators out there. And so please be really cautious. We send out emails, of course, regularly to our customers. But you always want to be careful when you get something that looks suspicious, or especially online. Just incredible how many fraudulent actors there are out there trying to trick people into revealing things like their private keys, their seed phrase. Never do that, please. We'll never ask you for your seed phrase. Keep your funds safe, and contact our support channels through blockchain.com if you ever have any questions about anything that looks suspicious.
Definitely. I'll leave those links in the description box below. Thank you so much for your time, Garrick. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. All the best in 2021, and let's follow up in the near future.
Sounds great. Thanks, Ashton. Have a great day.